So I just found a list of the best threequels of all time. Now, what does that mean? I'll explain. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
All right, so before we get started here, I have a public service announcement. For those of you who don't know, Cobra Kai has officially, been purchased. They got the streaming rights. Well, Netflix officially acquired the streaming rights for Cobra Kai, and it will be arriving on Netflix tomorrow. Season 1 and 2. Season 3 supposedly will come out all the way out in 2021, which sucks, but at least we know we're going to get it, right? So it requires a little bit of patience, but yeah, just so you guys know, starting tomorrow, you can watch Cobra Kai Season 1 and 2 on Netflix, and you should. I highly recommend it. It's a great show. It's probably one of the best new shows of the recent, past 3 years. It's one of the best new shows out there. Check it out. I highly recommend it. It's really good. I really enjoy it. So, before we get into it, let me just give you a quick reminder that any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram and at Super Dario World. Also, live streaming pretty much every day. Tuesdays through Thursdays, I aim for 7 p.m. You can find that on Twitch at Super Dario World or on YouTube at Super Dario World. Mondays, I usually do it a little bit later, like 9 p.m. Pacific. Fridays, I still have no idea. I'm going to do it earlier. I'm also semi-working on something for either tomorrow or Friday. I guess it depends on how things work out. But, I'll save that for another day. I don't want to tease something that I don't know when it's going to be ready. So let's get started here. I found a list the other day, and the other day, actually, I mean today, the list of the best threequels of all time. And why the hell is that showing like that? Let me fix that. There you go. The 10 best threequels of all time. And I really disagree with this list. Not extremely, but mostly I disagree. And for those of you who are wondering, what the hell is a threequel? This does not mean a trilogy, all right? It does not mean a trilogy, and it's basically the second sequel, so the third movie of a franchise. It could be 20 movies in that franchise, so it just means that it's the third one. And it's in this list, basically, they're putting up all the third best movies of all franchises together. So you got the Spider-Man 3s competing here against the Austin Powers and Gold members, against the Terminator 3's Rise of the Machines. It's pretty funny. When you're talking about trilogies, the third movie it's really hard to end a story. I've talked about this before. Endings are very hard. And usually it's where a movie fails. You can get a very terrible ending, and there's actually a bunch of movies. Well, there's a few movies on this list where the last one is kind of lackluster. And the perfect example of it, I just mentioned it, Spider-Man 3. That franchise was mostly okay, but Spider-Man 3 kind of ruins it. I have somebody here in the chat saying Matrix Revolutions. Matrix Revolutions kind of messed up the ending. Most of the movie's fine. That ending is kind of ridiculous. The whole thing of, spoiler alert, the whole thing of Neo basically always having to lose in order to win was stupid. They fucked up the ending. Another friend, Alien 3. I guess that doesn't count as a trilogy. Well, I guess it can. I don't know. Depends on how you want to look at it. But Alien 3 is the weakest of the first three Aliens. You could debate that 1 and 2 are... you can fight which one's better, but Alien 3 is clearly the weakest. Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome is the weakest of that trilogy too. Back to the Future 3 is the worst of the threes. The Godfather Part 3 is the worst one. So when you're talking about trilogies, it's hard to close out a story. But there are some pretty good movies there. There are the third one, and some franchises actually do know what they're doing. So, like I said, I found this list, and let's go through it here real quick. So, first off, we got a controversy. So, this one I believe is controversial and should not be here, but we got Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. So, I don't think that this should count as a threequel, and let me explain. Just because it's Star Wars Episode 3 does not mean that it's the third Star Wars movie. Actually, the third Star Wars movie is Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. So, And by the way, I don't think Return of the Jedi should be here either because it's the weakest of that trilogy. The best one is Empire, the second best is A New Hope, and the weakest one is Return of the Jedi. So in its particular trilogy, Episode 3 is the best one. I'll give you that. Episode 3 is the best one of the prequel trilogies, but it's the sixth episode. It's the sixth Star Wars movie, so I don't think it should be here. In my list, I would eliminate it, and in the end, I'll let you know which movie I think should take its place. So to me, that one's out, but that's the one that they're giving me. So all right, we'll keep it, I guess, for now. Next, we have Toy Story 3. Now, Toy Story 3 it's a legit movie. It's good. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's a great adventure. The ending, pretty good. Honestly, here's a movie where they actually nailed the ending. By the way, Star Wars Episode 3, they also did a good ending, but again, to me, it doesn't count for this one in particular. So, the ending here, a lot of people say that they cry in the moment where, they're about to die and all that stuff. That's not the moment that gets me. The moment that always gets me in this movie is when Andy doesn't want to give Woody up. When the little girl's like, oh, yeah, the cowboy, and Andy pulls him back. He's like, no. That's the moment that I was getting like, ugh. And then the whole like, thanks, friends. Thanks. When he says thanks, it always gets to me. It always gets to me. Like, because I've been through that. I'm a grown-ass man. I had my toys. I had to give them up at one point. It's the nostalgia. It hurts. It hurts to let go of your friends. And you don't want to. It's like, your favorite. I understand. So, yeah, this is actually a pretty good movie. I understand why it's there. Definitely should be there. Is it the best one of that trilogy? Well, it's actually 4. Honestly, right now, my favorite Toy Story movie is 4. Again, it's probably because I relate to it a little bit more because of age or whatever. But I think 2 was better. But still, all right, fine. It's a good movie. Like I said, it's a good movie. I'll keep it here. It's fine. What was it? That's 9. So number 8, we have Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. By far the best Harry Potter movie. In fact, you could argue that after Prisoner of Azkaban, the franchise kind of starts going downhill, but this movie is great. This is the one where they have 2 of the best mythological creatures, the hippogriff and the werewolf. It's a very enjoyable adventure directed by Alfonso, I think it's Alfonso Cuarón? I don't know. Point is, great director. He's a Mexican director. I like the guy. I like his movies. I think it's Cuarón. Is it Alejandro Cuarón? I don't remember his name. I know his last name, and it's Cuarón. So he actually did a really good job on it. There's the one thing that bugs me about this movie is it's not really his fault, and that's the time travel thing. And time travel really bugs me because once you introduce time travel into something, you completely fucked everything up. And I mean, 6 Ways to Sunday, nothing makes sense because then the question becomes like, well, why didn't you just use time travel to fix this? You already had that time travel thing. Why didn't you use it over here? You had so many opportunities to use time travel. Why didn't you use it? Why don't the other guys use it? Apparently, it's kind of like a easy thing. Maybe if they would have explained the parameters of its power a little bit better, it would have worked. It's my only knock on it. But overall, it's a great movie. They introduce a darker side to the story. It's very dark. It's kind of scary. It's the best Harry Potter movie out there. At least that's my opinion. So, okay. Definitely deserves to be in the list of the 10 best threequels of all time. Next, we got what is this? What is that? 8, 9, 10. So we got number 7 here, Christmas Vacation. Depends on who you want to ask. This is probably the best Christmas comedy out there. It's ridiculous. National Lampoon at its best. Randy Quaid kind of steals the movie with his with performance of the cousin. It's hysterical. It's great. It's wild. It's ridiculous. It is a great film. It almost feels like cheating to consider it to be a threequel, but it technically is. To me, it's more of an independent Christmas movie, and it's great. I love it. It's hysterical. If you're a fan of the Vacation, if you're a fan of National Lampoon comedy, you'll probably enjoy this movie. So, all right, definitely deserves to be here. Great threequel. Okay, let's move on to number 6. And in 6, we got an all-time classic. That's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Probably the most famous spaghetti western out there. Probably Clint Eastwood's most famous film, or most famous performance is The Man with No Name. I have a little bit of issues with considering this a threequel, but it's technically part of the Dollars trilogy. But if you see the Dollars trilogy, they're not really it's not really a trilogy. Well, it's a trilogy, but not in the traditional sense. However, it is. It's weird. It's hard to explain, but it's a great movie. The ending, the end scene, is one of the most iconic scenes of all time. It's got one of the most iconic themes of all time. That wow wow wow. That battle scene at the end. You know, the whole war scene. I believe it. I think it's Gettysburg. No, is it Gettysburg? I don't know. No, I don't think it's Gettysburg. But the whole massive Civil War fight at the end, it's great. It's extremely well made film, extremely well acted, and it is the best movie of that particular trilogy. So, all right, definitely deserves to be here, earns this spot. So let's move on to number 5. Now, number 5, we have a more modern movie, and this is James Bond, Skyfall. Skyfall, to me, to my humble opinion, is the best James Bond movie ever made. They did. I'm a fan of the Daniel Craig version of James Bond, who is a James Bond who you're afraid who's gonna kill you. Like, this dude actually looks like he could kill you. Like, he's an actual an actual assassin. Like, he actually knows he could kick your ass. The I grew up in the Pierce Brosnan era. I enjoy Pierce Brosnan. To me, that's kind of James Bond still. The dude who will, I don't know, like, get in a ton of fights and I don't know, fall off a plane and still his hair will be perfect. This is not that James Bond. This is the James Bond that actually gets his hands dirty, and it's great. Daniel Craig has done a great job. Sad to see him leave, but this movie had a legit director. I'm blanking out on his name right now. I was gonna say Brian De Palma, but it's not Brian De Palma at all. It'll come back to me at some point. The villain is great. Javier Bardem as the villain, who is kind of like the prodigal child in a way. It's great. Quantum of Solace was not that good. Casino Royale was good, but Skyfall is definitely the best one of this particular storyline. And like I said, to me, it's the best James Bond movie they've done so far. It's dark, it's deep, it has very interesting consequences. The enemy is fantastic, so I highly enjoyed it, and I think it's the best. And it's okay to me. I'm happy it's on its list. I'm happy that it's on this list. Next, we got Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Personally, my favorite Indiana Jones movie. It's weird that they tell you that his name is not actually Indiana. That's a weird thing to find out, but it's actually kind of funny. For those of you who don't know, Indiana Jones's name is not actually Indiana. I won't tell you what the real name is because I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'll tell you that Indiana was actually the name of his dog. So that was a weird thing. That was a weird thing to find out. And if you think about it, it's really fucked up. Imagine if you got your nickname out of your because of your dog. Like, imagine somebody started just calling me Shelby. That'd be weird. That'd be really weird, and me just accepting it. So, Sean Connery here is great. Honestly, I'm sad that Sean Connery stopped acting when he did, because his last movie was The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He's extremely funny. His chemistry with Harrison Ford is great. The story is very interesting. So, yeah, this is probably the most grounded of the Indiana Joneses. And I mean, if you think about it, what the first one, he's going up against Nazis and searching for a magical ark. The second one, it's a heart-eating tribe of savages in India, who, by the way, it's really weird because they look kind of like Aztec pyramids, but all right. And the fourth one is like interdimensional aliens. So this is probably the most grounded one out of all of them. Trying to find the Holy Grail is actually, all right, that makes kind of sense. Number 4, I strongly... Henry Jones. Who's Henry Jones? I just got a note. What? Indiana Jones is Henry... Oh, really? Yeah. It's so lame. Indiana Jones' real name is Henry Jones. Dr. Henry Walton Jones. Dr. Henry Walton Jones. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. My assistant over there. Next, we have number 4. Oh, wait, no, is this number 3? Let me see. 1, 2, 3... No, yeah. I believe that's number 3. Let me just double check this. And man, I'm not skipping anything. Yeah. Number 3, we have The Dark Knight Rises. Now, I definitely do not think that this movie should be this low on this list. But again, it's not my list. The performance by Tom Hardy is phenomenal. It's great. However, this is a classic example of how badly you can fuck up an ending, and that would completely ruin the whole movie. The ending is beyond stupid. It makes no sense. And there's actually there's a skit that I really enjoyed. The whole thing about Talia al Ghul secretly being there the whole time and her secret control over Bane was so stupid. And I guess that could have been fine if they were allies, but making Bane just a puppet after that, like, I don't think he says a single line afterwards. That's the thing that bugged me. Before, it's like Bane is like this super creepy, super useful, super smart villain, and after that he's like, oh yeah, lady, nothing. You get nothing out of him. In fact, I don't think he even fights. So that's the downside of that movie, and it just completely blew it. Also, you got like the worst death scene ever. Talia al Ghul, imagine if I'm talking all of a sudden, that's it. This is an Academy Award winner, and her death scene is terrible. Terrible. It's the worst. However, like I said, the plan doesn't really make much sense, and there's a skit out there. I don't remember who did. I'm assuming it's College Humor or something, but there's a scene where where Batman just got stabbed by Talia al Ghul, and she's like, ha ha ha, I betrayed you, blah blah. This is all part of my plan, and I got close to you to get you, blah blah. And Batman's like, but I fucked you. And she's like, yes, well, that only makes my betrayal better. Like, it was better when you were on when you were on all fours, and I just grabbed you from behind. And then he just starts saying a whole bunch of things to Bane, and like, yeah, she's sucking my dick, and Bane's just like, oh no. And honestly, just because of that, I guess it was worth it. But overall, the movie, I guess it's fine. Just that ending ruined it. So just because of that ending, I would get it out of here. I don't really necessarily blame the movie. You could tell that they kind of wanted to do something else. It's just that Heath Ledger died in the process. My theory, my ongoing theory is that originally they wanted to make this movie. The story of Bane and Batman, what Bane does in Breaking the Bat is he releases a whole bunch of criminals from Arkham Asylum, and so Batman has to try to catch all of them, and while he tries to catch them, he gets tired and beat up, and that when he's all weak and exhausted, that's when Bane comes in and he takes over. So I'm guessing that they wanted to do something similar there, except Heath Ledger died, and it's like, oh fuck, well, what the hell are we gonna do? So they had to improvise, but still, it was a weak ending. Very, very weak ending. Moving on to number 2, we have Die Hard with a Vengeance. Now, this is a good movie. I would not have it on this list. Definitely not. I like it. It's right in the middle of the pack of the Die Hard movies. So the worst one is 5, then number 2, then number 3, then number 4, then number 1. So the best one is the first one by far. This movie, it's good. It's funny. It's hysterical. The whole thing about having to run around town to do basically the whole bunch of stupid, ridiculous stuff. It's fun. It's okay. It's an enjoyable film. Like I said, it's an enjoyable action movie, but it's not as good as any of the other ones. So, I would not. Honestly, I would not have it here. There's other better action movies out there, and I'll mention one after I'm done. And so that leaves number 1. So what's number 1 of the best threequels of all time? Honestly, there's not even a competition here. So let's just go straight into it. Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King. The best movie of the best trilogy of all time. Like the movie that won 11 Academy Awards. It's tied for the most Academy Awards of all time. I've done full episodes talking about The Lord of the Rings and the brilliance of the trilogy and how well it was made and the extended editions because I recently rewatched them and how everything works. The only issue I guess you could have is that it has too many endings, but it's better to have too many endings than just one bad ending. It works. To me, it works. Everything in the movie works, and it's really weird because after the Battle of Helm's Deep, I'm like, there's no way they're going to make this more epic, right? We already had the epic Battle of Helm's Deep. How are they going to make this movie even bigger? How are they going to make something that tops that battle? And they did. The Battle of Minas Tirith is phenomenal. And the way they still managed to make every single thing everything interesting. The journey of Frodo and how it's consuming his soul. It's honestly... It might, okay, I can't say it's the best movie of all time, but it's definitely the best movie, the best trilogy of all time. They all work together. It's not my favorite of the Lord of the Rings movies. I've said this before. My favorite is still Fellowship of the Ring, but I do recognize that this is the superior film. and by far. So that would be the top 10. I'll just go through them real quickly again. Star Wars Episode 3, Toy Story 3, Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban, Christmas Vacation, Good, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Skyfall, Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade, The Dark Knight Rises, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King. So that's somebody else's list. Here are 5 movies that I think should have been considered for it. Now, the first one, I'm going to do the exact same thing that this guy did, and I'm going to put in a controversial pick. So, this one is controversial, and it's Infinity War. So, it's the Avengers Infinity War. Why is it controversial? Technically, it is a threequel because it is the third Avengers movie. So, you got the Avengers, you got Avengers Age of Ultron, and you got Infinity War. To me, it's by far the best one, and by far, then it would be probably the first Avengers movie. It's great. I love absolutely every single thing about this movie, except, well, not absolutely everything. There's 2 things that I would have changed. Scratch that. There's a few things that I would have changed. Particularly, it really bugs me that Thor did not go in when he appeared. When everybody thought Thor was dead and he came back, like in the middle of a battle when things were looking dire, and he shows up right in the middle of the field out of fucking nowhere with a badass new hammer, without an eye, different haircut, and nobody says the classic Thor line from every single one of his comics. Oh my God. They missed it. It was the perfect opportunity to do it. I was in the theater just excitedly, giddy, waiting for somebody to say it, and nobody said it. It really annoyed me. There's other stuff that bugged me, but overall, I think it's a fun film. But because it's mainly a Thanos film. It's a movie that follows the villain. And the other characters are kind of just complications along the way. But overall, like I said, to me, that's the best movie so far. However, does it count? Does it count? The question here is, does that movie count as a threequel? Because technically it is, but it's a culmination of like 20 other films. So if you're only considering a threequel something that's the add up of 2 other films before it, the combination of 2 other films before it, then it doesn't, because this is the combination of like 20 films. So it's cheating to put it in there. So that's why I would not put it in my list. But I had to mention, because it is a great, technically it is a great threequel. Next, one that I actually would have on my list, and I would replace Die Hard with a Vengeance in a second with, is John Wick 3. John Wick 3, this is a franchise that just keeps getting wilder and wilder. My favorite is the first one because it has the most heart, but it's a franchise that keeps getting more and more fun, more and more exciting. They keep trying crazier stunts, and they work. They're not too ridiculous. Like in the second movie, probably my favorite scene in the whole franchise is the fight in the mirrors, in the mirror room, just because as a film guy, I'm just sitting there trying to figure out how the fuck did they shoot that? How the hell did they not get a single camera on any single take? That's wild. That's amazing. But this one, I had a few issues with a few things, but overall, it's a kick-ass action movie. And as a pure action movie, it's way, way better than Die Hard with a Vengeance. And it sets things up for the future of the franchise that could be extremely interesting. So I would have definitely replaced those 2. Next, if you're looking for maybe you're not a Keanu Reeves guy. If you still want to consider an action movie, The Bourne Ultimatum. It's Jason Bourne on the playing offense instead of just defense. It's great. It's the culmination of his, or at least that particular story. It was supposed to be kind of like the end of it, but not really, because they're like, oh, we want to still keep making money. But it's really well handled, really well made. The action on it is great. Like honestly, the Jason Bourne movies are among the better action. It's among the better action franchises out there. So personally, I would keep John Wick just because it's just a bit more ridiculous. This one is a bit more grounded. So if you like more grounded stuff, okay. If you like things to be a little bit wilder and more ridiculous, more comic booky, I go John Wick. So those 2 I would throw in the mix. Then I'd also add one of my personal favorites, Red Dragon. All right, now this one gets a little bit tricky, but it is a threequel. This is the 3rd movie with Hannibal Lecter, but technically it's a prequel. So you got The Silence of the Lambs, then you got Hannibal, but I guess chronologically it would be Red Dragon, Silence of the Lambs, and then Hannibal. the order in which it came out was Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, and then Red Dragon. And so it is technically a threequel. This is as the story of the guy who actually captures Hannibal Lecter, played by Edward Norton, and then a case that he has after catching Hannibal Lecter, and that's the Red Dragon, played by Ralph Fiennes. Probably his best performance since Schindler's List. Honestly, Ralph Fiennes knocks it out of the park. He plays one of my favorite villains of all time in this movie. It's great. You feel bad for him. He scares you. You kind of want him to succeed, but not in being a murderer, but in actually being a normal person. It's a great movie. I highly, highly recommend it. Finally, giving another shout out to a movie that should have been considered here, Evil Dead Army of Darkness. This, again, it's in the realm of ridiculous movies, but it is a epic, ridiculous movie. Ash with his chainsaw hand in medieval setting, it's fucking hysterical. It's great. It's ridiculously made, but it is a great movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. And so, considering those, throwing those into the mix, what would be my particular order? How would I rank them? So, for me, this would be my rankings. For me, number 10, I would keep Toy Story 3. Just again, it's got a lot of heart. It's fine, but overall, like I said, the problem when you're not the best movie in a particular trilogy, I'm getting you out of there. So that's why it hurts a little bit there. Number 9, I would have Army of Darkness, because it is the best movie in that trilogy, and it's such a unique film. Honestly, it's for all the campy effects and all the ridiculous of the story and all the over the top stuff. There's no other movie like this. There's no other movie, at least in my mind, that even comes close to being what Army of Darkness is. So just because of that, it's worthy of being here. Number 8, I'd have John Wick Parabellum. Like I said, great action title. The franchise keeps getting better and better in action form, and it gets you excited for what's going to happen next. Number 7, I would have Prisoner of Azkaban, the best movie in the whole Harry Potter franchise, and arguably from there the franchise started going downhill. But it's got werewolves. No, it still has a weakness, and that's why it's still at number 7. But it's a fun movie. It's a fun film. It's enjoyable. If I have to pick any Harry Potter movie to watch, I'd watch that one almost every time. Almost every time. Next, number 6, I would have Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. To accompany Dr. Henry Jones in his adventures with his dad, who just keeps belittling him, and it's hysterical. Honestly, their rapport is great. The interactions with Sean Connery, between Sean Connery and Harrison Ford, two kind of grumpy old men, are great. They should have done more things together. They work. They have a good chemistry there. Number 5, I would have Christmas Vacation. Like I said, you could argue that it's the best Christmas comedy of all time. I definitely have made that argument. I just did right now, and I'm going to keep defending it. Number 4, I have Skyfall, what I consider to be the best James Bond movie of all time. Number 3, I'd have The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Arguably the best Western of all time. All right, you know what? Easily the best spaghetti Western of all time. Maybe Clint Eastwood's best film or best performance. Maybe the best Western of all time. At least not my favorite, definitely, because I have another favorite, but in the spaghetti Western world, it's definitely the best. It's an iconic film. It was actually very important for cinema in general, because they did a whole bunch of tech that had been done before, and so it's and that scene at the end, it's it actually took them. If you see the duel at the end, or the Mexican standoff, it takes them about. It took them about a day to shoot that entire film, and to shoot that entire scene, and it shows. You can see the quality, you can see the lighting, you can see everything. They got it absolutely perfect. Sergio Leone was, he was very, very, very specific in what he wanted, and I think he got it on film, and it works. And it's funny because it's a situation where you got 3 guys looking at each other, like I said, kind of a Mexican standoff, but. So in film, that could get kind of tricky, because when your eyes go to one way to the other, sometimes the audience can get confused. You need to set them up particularly in a particular way so that you're not jumping angles and stuff like that. It takes work. It takes a precision. It takes like a lot of talent to do that sort of stuff. And the if you have to do it in a particular time of day, because otherwise the shadows are going to go in one direction, stuff like that, and that could be confusing. If the sun's hitting one character in one spot and another character in another, the audience could be like, that doesn't make any sense, depending on how they're supposed to be standing. Like I said, it doesn't seem that complicated, but it is. And the film buff in me is like, wow, that's an amazing shot, the way they did it, because it works and it's organic. And the fact that you don't even have to consider where they're going or who they're looking at, and you just know, that means that it was really well done. So for that, I have it as number 3. Number 2, I have the movie that I just pitched, Red Dragon. To me, that's the best movie in that franchise, and that franchise has the Silence of the Lambs. So, and like I said, to me, Red Dragon has a better villain than Hannibal. So, just for that, I'd recommend. I definitely recommend you watch it. But still, number 1, the easiest pick, Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King, by far easiest pick ever. So, it's honestly, it's not even up for debate. It's not. I can't even think of a better trilogy out there, and I can't think of a trilogy that closes better or more epically than Lord of the Rings, especially the extended edition. So check out the extended edition. I highly recommend. Just rewatch Lord of the Rings. Do that. Do yourself a favor and rewatch Lord of the Rings, the extended edition, at least once a year. You'll love it. It'll be the best thing you've ever done for yourself. You got to love yourself a little. So, I believe that's kind of it for today. Yeah, that's it. I've gone through the whole thing. So, quick reminder, if there's any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram and at Super Dario World. Live streaming pretty much every day, 7 p.m. To at least Tuesdays through Thursday. Mondays I do 9 p.m. You can find me on Twitch and on YouTube at Super Dario World. Also, reminder, tomorrow on Netflix, you will be able to see Cobra Kai if you have Netflix. Highly recommend it. Honestly, the best use of your time. Better than watching my show. In fact, stop watching my show and tomorrow, stop watching my show tomorrow, and then just go straight and watching Cobra Kai. You'll enjoy it. You'll love it. It is one of the best shows, of the best new shows out there. I'm very excited for season 3, and I'm gonna probably binge it again. I'm probably gonna watch the first 2 seasons again because I loved it so much. So that's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and as always, thank you for listening, and I'll see you again next time.